Please keep any food or drink away until you're out of here. Don't leave any garbage behind. Turn your cell phones off. Not silent, but off. Be respectful as you're in here. Today we have with you, your first speaker you're going to hear from is Mr. Monty Nachman, who's come to us through the Illinois Holocaust Museum over in Skokie, and he's going to share with you his life experiences. So you don't need very much introduction. Mr. Nachman?
I'm sitting down today because you're looking at a dead man walking. Literally. I had heart surgery in 1978. It's the age of 60 years old. I've got 15 stents in me and a pacemaker. You know what a stent is? It goes into your heart and opens up your blood vessels and that. And right now I'm having a little problem breathing, but I have very, very good faith in my doctors. And I'm young enough to be here. I'm only 92. Telling you what life was like for a young Jewish kid coming up in Detroit, Michigan before the war. Detroit had all their anti-Semites. They had the Ku Klux Klan. They had the Nazi Bund. They had Father Coughlin on the radio every Sunday morning spewing out hatred. They had all kinds of good things going. And here I am, 8 years old, and I had to go by St. Mary's Church every day to go to school. And every day I was fighting. Getting in a fight, they're waiting for the Jews to come. And this one, my mother used to call me a Vildachaya. And in Jewish, in English, that means a wild animal. She says, you're always fighting, but she didn't realize what was going on in there. Anyhow, growing up in school, I was a hyper child, as it was, and I had a little problem with retaining stuff, and my attention span wasn't too good. As I got older and grown up, it was worse. Anti-Semitism became very bad. And in the 12th grade of high school, I finally made it there. And a guy called me a dirty Jew. I said, I'm a Jew, but I'm not dirty, and I hit him. In the classroom, they threw me out of school. Well, my parents were bonkers a little bit. And, but I said, I'm not going back. And then the war was coming on. So I joined up Custer's 6th Cavalry, because I didn't want to be in the infantry. We had horses. A friend of mine we were in a pool room. As it comes in, and he's dressed up in the uniform, and he says, I says, Max, what the hell are you doing? He says, you wouldn't believe this. He says, I joined this outfit, and it's Custer 6th Cavalry, and we're riding horses, and they're paying us. But we used to go horseback riding on Sundays, and we paid $5 an hour that time. I said, how'd you get into that? So we got in. Signed up, it was the National Guard. And as a matter of fact, we had 38 Jewish guys signed up in that battery. And we had a German battery commander, but he was a really nice guy. And it's turned out 2 weeks later, they took the horses away and they made a 210 anti-aircraft. We're going to Fort Sheridan, Illinois for 1 year, and then you get out. Well, the year went by, and then the war came. And I was in East St. Louis, Illinois, at the Monsanto chemical plant. We were guarding that plant. It was a major plant to be watched. And I'm supposed to have a pass on Sunday. Saturday, the guys had their pass, I'm getting off on Sunday. So they wake me up Sunday morning, he says they bombed Pearl Harbor. I said, who is she? I never heard Pearl Harbor. And he told me what it was, you know, I said, we're leaving, pack your bags. And we went back to Fort Sheridan. We headed out, we wound up at Payne Airfield right outside of Seattle, Washington. And we set up our guns. I was a 50 caliber machine gunner at that time. So it rained every day. And we didn't have time to go to town or anything like that. And the Navy didn't have enough men to man the cargo ships going up to Alaska and the Aleutian Islands. in the Bering Sea. So I volunteered for go as a gunner, and I got on the David W. Branch was the name of the ship. It was a troop carrier and cargo vessels. Well, I got out for midnight. Well, we took off, and when going to Alaska, you have to go up to an inland passage, and then you head out over the Gulf of Alaska. The inland passage is large enough for 2 large ships to go through with no problems. And this guy must have made that trip 50 times, he made it once. But I just got off a midnight watch, I was crawling in my bunk, and all of a sudden he hit an island. At the time I didn't know what he hit. I thought it was a submarine. It is, but we hit this island, and all the smoke broke. It was a stormy night, and the whistles were blowing, and I was scared out of my wits, and everybody was, you know. Well, the next morning, you see, we were stuck on that thing, and they couldn't pull us off. And they finally took us off, and we got a ride back to the States on a little excursion boat. And I got to tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life at that time. So we got back to Seattle, and I got on the Diamond Cement, USS Diamond Cement. It was a plain cargo vessel. It used to be a Japanese ship they captured. And I made 8 trips to Dutch Harbor, and I was there when it was bombed the only time. It was bombed. I happened to be there. I was shooting at them. I didn't hit anything. But when we came back, they said, you have to take your shots again. We can't find your records. So I took the shots. We took off again. I got to Skagway, Alaska, and a buddy of mine. We bought a half pint of booze, and we drank it down. The next day, I thought I was going to die. I turned all orange, and my eyeballs were orange, and I was urinating orange, and I said, oh my God. And I was sick of the dog. We were going up to Dutch Harbor. Finally got back, and he took me to the hospital there. And it was loaded up because they had a bad batch of syrup. And another friend of mine says, let's go to OCS. Well, I was a nutcase then, so I says, okay, let's go. So we signed up for any aircraft, MPs and quartermaster, no walking. I get picked for Fort Benning, Georgia Infantry. And I says, I'm not going. He says, you're going. I said, I'm not going. He says, you're going. Well, all the fellows that graduated came through. It was a vacation. And they told me, whether you had any experience, you're going to go to get a 2-week delay en route, they call it, and then you're going to go overseas. So I says, I'm not going anywhere. So when I got down there, I got married there in Fort Benning, Georgia. My wife came down. How I met my wife was, I was from Detroit. My brother and his family were in South Haven, Michigan, and they met her parents and him and my wife. And he told her to write to his brother. He's for sharing what she did, and we got together. And then, anyhow, she came down there, and we got married in October 24th, 1942, which is 68 years we're married. I don't know how she stood me this long, because as I go on, I'll tell you why. But anyhow, it's going on 69 years, and we have 5 grandchildren, five grandchildren, and we have 12 great-grandchildren. All of them are successful, by the way. Not the little ones, but they're. And for high school drop-off, I didn't do bad. Anyhow, as we were training, I was sent down, I thought we'd be sent back. My attitude was bad, see, because I made up my mind, I'm not going out to be no infantryman. And my marks were good, but my attitude was bad. So they called me in towards the end. And my wife said, oh, boy, you're going to be an officer. I said, are you crazy? I won't be here to talk to you. Anyhow, I went before the board, and I've never been afraid of anything in my life, and I'm not afraid of them, because they put their pants on one leg at a time. And they asked me, what's wrong with you? I said, nothing wrong with me. It's what's wrong with you guys. You put me in the wrong place. So he said, well, how about your marks are good, but your attitude's so bad? I said, well, I didn't want to be here. So he said, well, how about if you take a 2-week delay of road, you got married and come back, take the course again? I said, no, sir, I want to go back to my husband. He dismissed me, and I thought, well, boy, I'm going back. Well, I wound up with the 103rd Infantry Division, Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, 411th Regiment, 2nd Battalion, E Company, Rifle Company. That's the worst you can get into in the service. And I became a platoon sergeant. And we trained there, and then we went overseas. We landed in Marseille and went up to the Rhone Valley. When we got there, we had to climb this big hill. And here that's southern France, is in the Mediterranean, it's kind of warm there. And we got on our heavy coats, we got about a 50-pound sack that we're carrying our junk with our rifle and our helmet and all the other garbage. And we climbed this hill. We finally straggled up there. And it says, dig a foxhole. Well, we started digging a slate. So we dig a semi one just to cover you a little bit. And right away, all of a sudden, we hear, welcome to the slaughter, 103rd, men of the 103rd Infantry Division. And observation planes coming over the Germans and playing music. Your girlfriend and wives are going out tonight for dinner and dancing with your friends. And that kind of stuff to go on, the propaganda they throw at you. Well, we got on the train and we took off for the front. We got off and we took over for the 103rd, the 3rd Division was in a holding position. And we took over from them. And that night we had artillery mortars all night long. And mortar shells hits a tree, comes right down, it bursts. Our first sergeant got killed the first night. He had a piece of shrapnel going to his heart, right? And he was laying between a captain and a company runner. 6:45, we were supposed to get a 15-minute barrage and take off. 6:45 came and went, no barrage, and we took off at 7, and they're waiting for us. And they could put a mortar in your back pocket if you give them a half hour, and they've been there for days. So we lost 55 guys the first day, killed and wounded. They took us out of that area for a time, and the colonel that didn't order the artillery, he got drunk, he was drunk, and didn't order artillery. And he got demoted to taking care of the USO. That was his punishment. Well, we continue on to the war. We went through this, and we fought a lot of battles. On March the 7th, we took off on the last drive. Eisenhower came down the line, and we took off. He says, don't stop till you hit the Rhine. And that's how I got hit in the arm. It was shrapnel. Shrapnel's burning hot when it hits you, you know. And it's not pleasant, no matter where it hit it. So it was what they call, it wasn't called a wound that'll take you out of action or put you into a nice, easy job. They patch it up and you get right back in the line again. And then our mission was we had to cross the Vosges Mountains. It's the highest mountain in France, and that year was the coldest year that they had in about 40 or 50 years. You dig a foxhole and here comes water. It was just terrible conditions. In the infantry, you live like a dog and you die like a dog. Be honest with you. That's what war is not a game. War is not a game with, hey, all you, they're jumping around and all that. These guys, I used to watch them, these Marines and whoever they were, hooping and hollering like that. They didn't realize what they're getting into. It's not a pleasant game. You get killed. People are trying to kill you. And they do kill you. Anyhow, we went on and crossed it, and when the Battle of Bulge took place, we were the first ones that hit the Siegfried Line. That was a German defense line that they put up. And we were down to 45 men in the company. It was in my platoon, I think we had about 6 of us left. And we stood off 3 counterattacks that night. The next morning they pulled us out and they took us over to Lorraine. We were in Alsace, we went over to Lorraine. We didn't know what was going on. It was a cold, bitter night. The trucks put us to a certain point, dropped us off, and we started walking like dummies. I said, why the heck didn't they take us where we're supposed to go? We started walking. Finally, they've come up with some food. Well, and I see these guys today, they're carrying these 50-pound sacks around the back while they're fighting. I don't know how they can do it. I even threw away, most of us threw away our kit, the mess kit. And we used to do everything out of the cup, canteen cup. So you go through a line and he gives you the ham, and the mashed potatoes, and the gravy goes on there, and the green beans go on there, and the last guy throws in some ice cold fruit salad. Excuse me if I have to stop and think of that. Fruit salad on top of it. To this day, I always eat things separate. But anyhow, they brought up the replacements, and we were attached to Patton now. After the war was over, the Battle of Bulge was over, General McAuliffe came over took over our division, and he requested the division would be put back into action. Well, the war was close to coming to an end, and I hated to hear that, but what is, and that's what you got to do. So we went all the way until we came to Landsberg, Germany. In France and Germany, the farmers live in a village, and they go out to their farms. They have outhouses where they do their things. And a guy comes along with a great big barrel, with a big oxen, and he takes this stuff out and throws it, scatters it all over the field for fertilizer. And the smell is terrible. Now we're coming up in this, through the woods in Landsberg, and all of a sudden we started to smell something. It was a horrendous smell. Never smelled anything like that. And then we came across the fence and the gate was open. And I tell you, to this day, you can never forget it. You never get the smell out of your nose either. Bodies laying all over the place. Stripped naked, skin and bones. They never fed them. It was an offshoot of Dachau. Dachau, too many, they threw them in there. They had a number of camps. This was Camp 6. They had a number of camps where they put these people, and all they did was starve them to death. And they were laying all over the place. Well, I speak Yiddish, and I talked to a couple of them. We couldn't give them anything to eat because it would kill them. And they told me that whoever could walk, they were taken to Dachau to kill them off. So I told the lieutenant, I said, we better get after him. So he says, you gotta secure the camp first. This thing's, you just can't leave him. So we did, and then we took off. And we caught up with them, and we killed the SS. And I met people that were on that march, living in Skopje, and were in that camp. I said, I cannot believe how you survived all that. You would come out with all your marbles. I said, to this day, I have nightmares. I had what they call post-traumatic syndrome. But the VA didn't recognize it. The government didn't want to recognize it. Today, they got their hands full of that. You could bet me, everybody coming back from these places, they have it. You can't control your temper. I used to lose my temper, but I never touched my wife physically. I never hurt my kids physically. But I used to get so angry that I'd be pounding on the steering wheel, I'd be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's why I said, I don't know how she stayed with me this long. But she did, and she still is. I think she's tougher than I am now because I'm on medication to quiet me down. At 92 years old, I can still listen. So I look at life as a big gift. And I told you that I'm a man walking on death walking or whatever the heck it is. I am. I shouldn't even be here talking to you. But I have wonderful doctors, and they've kept me alive. I've been fighting the VA for many, many, many years about my pension. They said they denied everything. They gave me $30, I think it was, for tinnitus. Tinnitus is a ringing in your ear that never goes away. And you get it from loud noises and stuff. So they'll give you 35 bucks. What the heck? Yeah, they can. They keep you quiet, see. And I was fighting them all the time, and finally this showed up and that showed up. And one day I wrote him a letter. I says, okay, you win. But you'll never know how many nightmares I had, how many flashbacks I had, how many fights I had with my wife, how many jobs I walked off because somebody looked at me cockeyed. I said, and with that I says, goodbye and good luck. And about 3 weeks later, I got a letter back from the VA and it says, congratulations, you're 100%, but we're only going to give you 80. Well, the difference between the 100 and 80 is like living in the auditorium or going to Trump Towers, because at 100%, you get your teeth done, you get everything done, and more money. They've done everything in their power, and I hate wars. I absolutely hate wars. War's not a game. Eisenhower, when he retired, to warn the country, do not get involved with military-industrial complex. All it does is eat up money and eat up lives, and all the wasted lives that we got there. These kids, and they don't think about the families. There was an article, a young man, 23 years old, came home and shot his wife. He says to the police, says, I killed the woman I loved. He couldn't help himself. Vietnam, they threw down this Agent Orange. Well, the wind doesn't care if you're American or you're Vietnam. They got it. Their families got it, cancer and everything. What do you think the VA said? It didn't happen. We didn't throw it on you. It was on them that we threw it. Finally, they had to admit that. Now we got new people come in. It started to change when Clinton came in. George Bush didn't do a heck of a lot to do us any good. And they have a wonderful 4-star general. He was the head of 5-star general. General Szczynski, Japanese. They threw him out, actually, of the army because he disagreed about going into Iraq. He said there's no need to go into Iraq. So they made him take his retirement. And they sent a couple of flunkies there to represent them. Nobody came from the higher-ups to see him off. But Obama made him head of the VA, and things have changed drastically. They're building him up and taking care of them a lot better than they did. So we fought until the last day of the war. After that, we went all the way. We were fighting, at the end, we were fighting SS, who were behind the young kids and old men. If they retreated, they shot them. If they came forward, we would capture them. So they all came to be prisoners of war. But they were still dangerous. And all the way to the last day, we met up with the 5th Army coming up through the Brenner Pass. And then the war was over. And then I was in the Army of Occupation, and I was attached to the CIC Counterintelligence Corps because I picked up some German with my Jewish. It's close, enough to get me by. And one day they sent me out, some people came in from this little village way up in the Austrian mountains. Excuse me, said that a major and his son had come back to this little village way up the hill, and they're taking over again. So I got a company in order to go up there and pick him up. So I went out there and I knocked on his door with my pistol and I stuck it in his face. And he says, and I took him in. But I imagine he got out anyhow, so there's a lot of them dead. After the war, there was a lot of people that helped these guys get to South America and get to all these safe places that literally butchered butchered millions of people. The worst thing I've ever seen in my life was this concentration camp, and this is a small one. They were laying all over the place. That's not dressed up like this. They brought the people into the village, and they said, I didn't know about that. How could you not know that smell over there was that drive you crazy? And they made them clean up. They did that all over the place. But today, Germany, would you believe, is one of Israel's strongest defenders. And they were very good. I don't hold Germany responsible for anything today. I hold the people that did it responsible. Same thing with the Japanese. It wasn't the Japanese people at the time, it was their generals. All they knew about is get some more medals on there and let's have some action. That's their business, war. They don't fight wars. They're way back. They don't hear a damn gun go off. They're way back with all kinds of guards around. But they direct. You go here and you go here. And the little guy, they used to call him the sad sack years ago. And he was the infantryman. And that was the guy that took the blunt of everything. It's not an easy, it's not a nice thing. So with that, I think I'm going to end it. And if you have questions, I will take it. The questions you can ask.
At this time, we're going to open it up. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Mr. Nachman, you could kind of come up to the front here, because we only have one microphone. I'm not going to run around the whole CPA.
Hi, my question is kind of personal. You said at the end of the war, you went into the Brenner Pass and you met up with the 5th Army.
The Brenner Pass?
And, you know, and guys from the 5th Army. Do you remember any of those guys?
No, we went up to the Brenner Pass, and that's where we met up with the 5th Army.
Yeah, okay. I just wondered if you remember meeting any of those guys, because one of them was my dad.
Glad to get home and glad to get about it.
Well,
That's okay, that's a good question.
one of them was my dad.
We have, can you hear me? We had, oh yeah? Okay, good. Is he still around? No. Oh. We have a division reunion every year, and we meet at different places. The last one I went to, in my company, there was 3 of us left. One of the lieutenants, he's sitting right in front of there, he's a federal judge. And after the first drink or 2, he disappears. And the other guy, it was an 8-ball in my platoon. And you know what that means? He was I'm not kidding. Anyhow, he says, Sarge, he says, he called it, Sarge, he says, I got a place out, a spread out in the desert here in Arizona. He says, if you can find me out there, he says, I got a place for you. So I stopped going because all my friends were all gone. They're all my company, they're all gone. Now most of them come there now. There are a few older timers come, but their kids come. And that's what keeps it alive. I'm still a member, and I pay my dues, and they send me a letter all the time, but, you know, I'm not crazy. I just hate wars with a passion. Because eventually they're all settled by by people talking. Nobody gains anything by it. And it's just miserable. My wife has a cousin that is a psychiatrist. And she was sent to Germany, the German hospital, American hospital in Germany. And she come back, I says, what's going on, Diane? She says, They cast away the